everyone, welcome to another edition of 2A Arsenal Roundup News. My name is Richard Espinoza and I'm your host. 2A Arsenal Roundup News is your primary source for Second Amendment news, whether it be good, bad, or ugly, what happens in blue states, red states, whether an important bill will benefit your Second Amendment rights or cause an effect towards your Second Amendment rights. We bring it straight up to you to keep you informed on what is going on with your constitutional rights. As of right now, I'm at my hotel room. I was doing a little bit of job interviews, and I have some other exciting news for my viewers. I have expanded my brand. Not only will I be on YouTube, but I will also be on Rumble. Because the future of YouTube is kind of uncertain right now, because a lot of people, especially people who report Second Amendment news and many Second Amendment influencers, they're switching to Rumble, and I can see why. It's because YouTube is not a gun-friendly channel. Many of us know that, and they are constantly censoring our freedom of speech. And a lot has to do with the fact that YouTube is in the pocket of these gun control groups, and they'll do whatever it takes to keep them happy and put a smile on their face. And they're willing to compromise for any of these gun control groups, which is one of the many reasons why people have switched to Rumble. But I will be doing both Rumble and YouTube until the future of YouTube is finally resolved, because again, there's rumors that YouTube could be permanently shut off, and there's been talks that that a lot of viewers are leaving YouTube because the way they do things, and I can clearly understand why. Most people do their gun videos on Rumble because Rumble is gun friendly, which is a plus. It's ran by patriots. It's ran by people who believe in free speech, as well as the Second Amendment, because there's certain things you cannot do on YouTube when it comes to doing gun reviews, which is the reason why I haven't done any gun reviews personally. But probably by next year, when I move to Arizona, I will probably do a little day at the range, and it will all be on Rumble. Any type of firearm activity that I will do on videos will be on Rumble, not on YouTube, because again, YouTube is very picky, and they're constantly censoring people and turning people away to leave. Also want to add too that I'm also expanded my brand also on Truth Social. I love Truth Social. It's a great platform, far better than Facebook. It's a kind of like a good alternative towards Facebook. It's a good way for me to reach out to people, to get people to follow me, and so I can keep people informed of what is going on. So you have many choices. You can also follow me on Rumble. You can also follow me on Truth Social, and of course I am on X too as well. And I am on Facebook, but I basically advertise any type of Second Amendment issues in these private groups that I'm a member of. You can look for groups such as Defenders of the Second Amendment. The people who are the moderators of that is Stuart Stevens and Bruce Ferrero. They're the main guys of the group. They're the main administrators there. So if you want to join that group, just send in a request. We're going to ask you some questions on your thoughts on the Second Amendment in order to join. And then we have another private group I'm also part of called We Support the Second Amendment, which is ran by and owned by my good friend Jennifer Cancel. So today we're going to be talking about an important bill in this great state of Pennsylvania. This was brought to my attention from Gun Owners of America. It is called House Bill 1891, and basically 1891 is a total infringement towards a constitutional right. Basically, what this bill does is wants to keep a record of your gun purchases. And these gun purchases will go on record for the federal government. Do you really trust the federal government on knowing your information? I don't think so. And I think a lot of people would agree out there that it's none of their business on what guns we own and what guns we buy. Now, the anti-gunners and these gun control groups will say that this bill is necessary because it will help track down people who commit crimes, and we know where the guns lead to. That may sound good on paper, or it might sound good in writing, but in reality, it violates your constitutional rights. So in other words, if, let's say, for example, your house gets broken into, okay, and a criminal steals your guns. You might have some very prizeworthy guns that are valuable to you, and these thieves steal it, okay, and your gun's on the registry, and then they use it for a crime, then they're going to blame you. These lawmakers are going to blame it on you, saying, well, you didn't lock your guns up properly. I mean, you can lock your guns up properly all you can, but when crooks break in, crooks break in. You know, and they'll argue, say, well, it's your fault for not buying alarm systems. You don't need to. I mean, as long as you lock your house up and you lock it up as best as you possibly can, you know, you can't control everything what criminals do. But what you can do is, you know, elect prosecutors who will punish these criminals to the full extent of the law. And the reason why we have a problem with home invasion robberies or criminals breaking into people's homes is because these people have been let out before, and these prosecutors, you know, they let them out on the street again. Unfortunately, prosecutors have become more corrupt than ever before. And at one time in our lives, we used to depend on prosecutors to serve justice for those who do harm to us or do damage to our property or do harms to our loved ones. But a lot of these prosecutors, unfortunately, in today's world are, you know, they're bought and paid for. They're basically activists, prosecutors. Same thing with judges. You have judges who are called rule of law judges, who are sticklers to the Constitution. They believe in enforcing everything by the Constitution and by the law. But then you have these activist judges who like to add and erase and make up laws that they see fit, that fits their political agenda and that fits their narrative. Well, right now I'm going to read you all about HB 1891. It was a bill that was introduced on Wednesday, and it's in the process of being voted on. So I'm going to read it to you right now, and you can look up on the screen on what I have here. And it says right here, the anti-gun Democrats are at it again. On Wednesday, November 12th, the House Judiciary Committee will vote on a dangerous bill that would create electronic gun registration in Pennsylvania. HB 1891 will set up all the conditions necessary for the Pennsylvania State Police to enhance their so-called record of sale system, which is nothing more than a black backdoor gun registry. Gun owners across Pennsylvania are not fooled by the rhetoric claiming that the Pennsylvania State Police firearm application record sale form, which is SP 4113, is not a handgun registry. We know better. And HB 1891 would allow the effective collection of any additional data that the government would decide to ask for the point of sale using this electronic form. Then it goes on to say, if that wasn't bad enough, the Democrats have already passed universal background check legislation in the House. If that bill and the HB 1891 were signed into law, all firearms transactions in Pennsylvania would be electronically centralized and stored by Pennsylvania State Police. Make no mistake, the House Democrats are implementing Bloomberg's agenda to register and track all firearm sales in Pennsylvania. And history informs us that when guns are registered, confiscations eventually occurs. And that is the truth. That's what it will lead to. It will lead to confiscations. It will lead the ATF to even commit further corruption. So this is why I'm reaching out to the people of Pennsylvania, is to call your representatives and tell them vote no on HB 1891. And it's important that you follow up on this, because next year will be the primary elections. We all know that elections have consequences. So to the people of Pennsylvania, any of your elected representatives in the state, whether it be in the state assembly, in the local and federal government, any of your political representatives support 1891, make sure they get voted out, because they have no business representing you by supporting something that violates your constitutional rights and your right to privacy. Now, again, you'll hear arguments from the Brady campaign, the Violence Policy Center. They're claiming that it would actually protect law-abiding gun owners. So in other words, they're saying that if your guns get stolen, we know who we can link them to. But the thing is, your name is registered on it, and it's their way of wanting to sue you because they claim that you didn't lock your guns up properly. This is a game that these gun control groups will play. They say that they do it out of safety, out of protection, so they know who bought who. So in other words, they're going to say, well, if you do a private sale, you don't know if this person's a bad guy or not, and therefore, when you sell it to him, and if he commits the crime, we know that he committed the crime. But what if the guy is a law-abiding citizen? What if he's not using the gun to commit a crime? Perhaps using it for a collection. It's a gun that he wants to put in his collection, something he wants to shoot at the range. Or let's say, even if he bought it from person number A, and he becomes person number B, and then what happens is if person number C steals from person number B, from letter B, excuse me, you know what I'm saying. So you have person C stealing from person B, and then person B would be blamed for what person C did. See this how it works? See, these gun registries are nonsense. They don't do anything to protect your rights. They don't protect safety. It's their way of wanting to control you and discourage you from being a gun owner. This is none of the government's business. And the Constitution in the Second Amendment clearly states, when they say that a well-regulated militia being necessary to secure a free state, well, that part means, of course, we're all the militia. There's a saying that James Madison says, when tyranny becomes law, rebellion becomes duty. That means we have a job to be a rebellion when the government oversteps its boundaries. So it gives us that right, which is one of the reasons why members of the Confederacy did not get convicted of treason, because they were within their constitutional rights to protect their free state. That was the argument that President Ulysses S. Grant made as president, which is the reason why he pardoned Robert E. Lee, because Robert E. Lee was in his constitutional boundaries to protect his free state against a tyranny government, which in this case, the North was committing tyranny towards the South, and it was their duty to take arms. So that is why Ulysses S. Grant pardon Robert E. Lee. And then the last part of the Second Amendment phrase, it says, the right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. So when we're talking about not be infringed, that means you don't register a constitutional right. You don't put any type of infringement on a constitutional right. No fees, nothing. Because it defeats the purpose of it being a constitutional right. Following me? So that is why it is important that you, for the people of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, you got to get involved. I encourage you to join with Gun Owners of Pennsylvania, which is a great gun rights advocacy group. You got to get involved in many gun rights organizations as possible, and there are plenty. And I highly recommend a lot of them. The more you join, the better. And every time, if you can donate just $1 a month, that will help fight against these people who want to further infringe upon our constitutional rights. $1. That's all it takes. Imagine if you have like 2 million members, 3 million members, and they all donate $1. That's $3 million right there that could be used to fight court cases to protect our rights. Always ask yourself, how much does your freedom worth to you? Are you willing to pay at least $1 just to protect your freedom? It's only $1. And to me, $1 can make that difference. It's the best investment you can make by donating $1 to protect your rights. So that's important. When we come to the midterm elections next year, we need to know where our candidates stand. Find out where your candidates stand. It doesn't matter whether they're Republican or Democrat. If they've done anything to violate your Second Amendment rights, vote them out. Make sure you tell the candidates where you stand. And if you so dare to violate their constitutional rights, vote them out. Because it takes you, the people, to get involved. And I encourage college students, for those of you who are college students who are pro-Second Amendment, and I know how hostile these universities are because, I was a college student. I dealt with many of these left-wing, wacko, communist college professors who are totally rabidly anti-gun, but I've always out-debated them every time. I've always outsmarted them. The one thing that these communist professors hate, they hate the truth. When it comes to the truth about the Second Amendment, they hate it. They hate the fact when I bring up about Nazi Germany, how Hitler confiscated guns from Jews, and it led to the Holocaust. They all yell and say, oh, that's not true. And I said, well, ask that to a Jewish person. Tell that to any Jewish person, and they will tell you that it's the truth. A real Jewish person would know that gun confiscation has led to many deaths to Jews. In fact, out of everybody within the human race, both Jews and Christians have been heavily disarmed and been victims of civil disarmament. You go back, if you study the Bible like I do, if you look into the Bible, how Jews have been tormented by the Philistines, where the Philistines tried to prevent blacksmiths from making swords and shields. And keep in mind, swords and shields were the guns of its day. Both a sword and a shield and a gun is both a weapon. And that is why most Jewish people I know personally are 100% pro-gun. Why? Because they know what happens in history. Many Jewish people that I know who own guns always remind me what happened in Nazi Germany, which is the reason why they own so many guns. Most people don't know that Jewish people are the most rabid, vehement gun owners in America. Now, I know it may sound cliche because we have many of these liberal Jewish Democrats who vote against your gun rights, and they support massive gun control bills, such as Charles the Skunk Schumer. We all know who's a Democrat and he's Jewish, but here's the difference between Schumer and other Jewish people. Schumer may be born Jewish, but he's not Jewish religiously. Because if he is Jewish religiously, he would follow history. He would support the truth of what happened to many Jews during the time of the Holocaust, when many Jews got their guns confiscated. And the reason why Hitler did gun confiscation, because he knew that the Jews were not willing to walk into the boxcars. And if you look in our history, in America, we did not lay down for the British. The King of England ordered the redcoats to confiscate our gunpowder, our muskets, our cannons, because the king didn't trust us with guns. What happened? Well, it was April 19th of 1775. We ambushed the British and we told the king, game on, we're going to fight and we're not going to allow you to win. Well, we got to continue that fight, ladies and gentlemen, because our fight for gun rights has no end. It may, like these old saying goes, you can smash a cockroach, you can spray a cockroach, you can bomb a cockroach, they'll go away temporarily, but they'll come back. Well, same thing with these gun control nuts and these corrupt anti-gun politicians. You can stop them, you can spray them, you can vote them out, and you enjoy your temporary peace of liberty, but they'll come back. That is why we have a Second Amendment, and that's why we have a Constitution, because our founding fathers knew. They knew eventually, somewhere, some way, somewhere down the line, that tyranny could strike. And James Madison gave us fair warning that as long as America exists, there are people that will attempt to put tyranny towards the land of freedom and prosperity. Because even when we defeated the British in the Revolutionary War, they tried to come back after us again in the War of 1812. But then we signed a peace agreement and they agreed to leave us alone. But there will always be other countries that will try to do what they can to destroy our constitutional republic. And if you notice, I didn't use the word democracy because we are a constitutional republic. That's what America is, a constitutional republic. Not a democracy, but a constitutional republic. And it should be respected as such. But remember, only you can prevent gun control. And by preventing it, you got to vote, you got to get involved, you got to reach out to your fellow gun owners, your hunting buddies, shooting buddies, or whoever shares your values of freedom, constitutionalism, and prosperity. Talk to them, get them involved in the processing, get them to vote. That's where it narrows down to. Voting is important because it's the only way we can defeat these gun control nuts. And if you have a liberal friend who might be anti-gun, take the time to talk with them and explain to them why it's important, why a Second Amendment is necessary. Challenge a liberal friend to go to the gun range. If you have a liberal friend that's never shot a gun before, start them off with a .22. Give them the baby steps. And that's the best way you can help them understand and help them change their mind. Take, for example, Mark Farner of Grand Funk Railroad. His good friend Frank Zappa, who was one time a rabidly anti-gun hippie, but one day Mark Farner took Frank Zappa into his barn. He gave him a .44 Magnum, taught him how to shoot it. And Frank Zappa went from anti-gun to being pro-gun. And he became a gun fanatic because of that. But it takes you. You can help people see the light. Give them that challenge. It's worth it. Well, that is it for today for 2A Arsenal Roundup News. If you have any important legislation that you want to keep me informed on, whether it be a bill that could affect your constitutional right or a bill that can benefit your Second Amendment right, you want to bring it to my attention so I can spread the word, just email me at rjespinoza, that's RJ Espinoza, ESPINOZA.roundupnews@gmail.com. Just tell me what state you're from. Tell me what the bill's about. Will it benefit your Second Amendment rights or will it cause an effect? Either way, just send me the email and I'll be sure to make sure I will broadcast it for my next podcast. It'd be a great help for me to help you and help everybody, keep everybody informed. And again, I encourage all of you to keep an eye on HB 1891. It's important, even though if you don't live in Pennsylvania, because what will affect one state will affect another. Because keep in mind, many of these anti-gun governors in blue states, they play monkey see, monkey do. In other words, if Gavin Newsom sees what goes on in Pennsylvania, he's going to do the same thing in his final year as governor of California, because he will officially be out of office in January of 2027. Unfortunately, people in California have to put up with him for another year. And thank God I moved out of California because I had enough of that jackwagon. He was one of the reasons why I left California, because I had enough of him. So to prevent something like what's going on in Pennsylvania, you need to watch what's going on, and I'm hoping and I'm keeping my fingers crossed that this bill will be defeated. And if it does, it will be a big win for all gun owners around America. Because again, what affects one state will affect another. And again, these blue state governors are going to be watching this. And if they see that if Pennsylvania becomes successful in passing HB 1891, your state could be next, whether it be blue or red. Don't let it happen. That's why it's important. That is why you need to stay informed and keep up what's going on. But until then, be armed, be vigilant. Protect your home, your community, your family, and your loved ones, because that's what the Second Amendment is all about. It's all about freedom and your right to protect yourself, your family, and your community. It's the greatest tool that our founding fathers left in our Constitution. Have a great day.